In 124 years of Tour de France history, no country outside France has ever hosted the start of both the men's and women's races in the same year. In 2027, Britain becomes the first spanning Scotland, England and Wales in a Grand Départ that ASO itself calls historic. But what most people haven't grasped is why this single event could permanently change how professional cycling's biggest race operates. Requires surviving a brutal, highly political selection process. Every few years, regions across Europe submit massive bidding dossiers to the race owners, a Maori sport organisation spelled ASO. To secure the bid, a country must prove flawless road logistics, airtight safety protocols, global media reach, and ironclad financial guarantees. The spark for the 2027 project ignited during quiet steering committee discussions in late 2023, aimed at aligning three distinct national governments under one unified banner. To manage the immense administrative weight, British Cycling and UK Events Limited established Grand Départ GB 2027. Limited. This is a special purpose vehicle spelled SPV, a temporary dedicated company designed solely to coordinate the public funding and execute the event without exposing local taxpayers to unexpected liabilities. On March 19, 2025, on Edinburgh's historic Royal Mile, Tour director Christian Prudhomme stepped to the podium to announce Britain's victory. ASO chose the tri-national bid because it offered exceptional geographical variety and a deep connection to British fans who welcome the race with passion and pride. The plan relied on a regulatory loophole, the UCI's Joker rule. This policy allows the Tour to start on a Friday instead of a Saturday once every 4 years, giving organisers the extra day of race scheduling needed to make the long journey south from Edinburgh logistically possible. This decision by ASO represents a fundamental structural shift in the architecture of professional cycling. The 2027 Grand Départ marks the first time in history that both the men's Tour de France and the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift will begin in the same country outside of France in the very same year. By bringing both pelotons to Great Britain, organisers are establishing gender parity, meaning equal status and visibility, as the core identity of the event. This dual launch serves as a live testing ground for a completely new commercial blueprint. ASO is actively bundling global television broadcast packages, integrating shared host country branding, and aligning international sponsorships under one unified national project. The opening weekend is designed specifically to expand the sport's reach well outside the traditional cycling audience. By utilising the historic media footprint of the men's race, the partnership boosts the visibility of the women's event to a massive global scale from day one. It establishes a deliberate modern approach for how the world's most watched sports properties will be commercialized, broadcast and celebrated on the international stage. On July 2nd, the race begins under the shadow of Edinburgh Castle. The 184-kilometre opening stage rolls south through the Scottish borders toward Carlisle, crossing the historic frontier. The day's main obstacle is the Côte de Melrose, a sharp 2-kilometre climb averaging 6% in the Eildon Hills. Yet this opening day is designed more for control than chaos. General classification, or GC contenders, the riders fighting for the overall victory, will likely play defense, keeping the pack tight to protect their leaders and let the sprinters battle for the first yellow jersey. The real tactical shift comes on July 3rd, running 223 kilometres from Keswick to Liverpool. Here, the postcard views of Grasmere and Windermere double as a tactical battlefield. These steep, punchy Lake District climbs invite aggressive breakaways, forcing the peloton to chase hard before a high-speed sprint finish on Liverpool's historic waterfront. The high-speed sprint along Liverpool's historic waterfront delivers massive spectator and tourism value. But before the pure sprinters seize their moment, early breakaway riders have a rare, chaotic window to outrun the peloton through the twisting Lancashire lanes. The real tactical hammer drops on July 4th as the race crosses into Wales for a brutal 223-kilometre trek from Welshpool to Cardiff. This is the hardest opening weekend stage of the Tour de France 2027. Packing over 2,500 metres of elevation, the peloton faces 8 categorised climbs, including the legendary Côte de Rigos and the punishing ramps of the Côte de Caerphilly. This tough run in through the South Wales valleys will break the race apart, forcing the overall contenders to fight. Long before reaching the finish outside Cardiff's Principality Stadium, the road will begin to separate the true favourites. On July 30th, the Tour de France Femmes, avec Zwift, departs from the Hedgerow in Leeds, the exact location of the historic 2014 men's start. This time, the stage belongs entirely to the women. The 85-kilometre opening route crosses West Yorkshire, featuring the climb of Kirkheaton, before ending in a high-speed urban sprint in Deansgate, Manchester. The following day, the race transforms into a selective survival test. This 154-kilometre route from Manchester to Sheffield forces a crossing of the Pennines, packing 3,000 metres of elevation gain. To survive, the riders must conquer the savage 12% gradients of Winnett's Pass, the high, exposed moorlands of Snake Pass, and the punishing ramps of Jenkin Road, shattering the peloton long before the finish on Attercliffe Common. The grand finale on August the 1st brings the race to London for a historic milestone. Rather than a standard road finish, ASO introduced a 30-kilometre team time trial. Here, entire squads must ride in perfect aerodynamic unison against the clock, flying past Westminster and Tower Bridge before sprinting to the finish on the Mall. For British cycling icon Lizzie Deignan, the prospect of competing on these home roads represents an incredibly proud personal moment. This 3-day route is not a secondary event or an afterthought. By placing these elite athletes on the most iconic roads in Britain, organisers are establishing a new standard of equality, proving that the women's race commands the exact same prestige, difficulty, and global spotlight as the men's. Behind the podium, a massive financial machinery is driving a permanent shift in British infrastructure. Scotland is deploying a £9.25 million funding package, bolstered by a £1.7 million contribution from Edinburgh's local visitor levy. Across the border, Wales is investing £4.5 million to build permanent cycling hubs, secure parking, and e-bike charging networks. This multi-government strategy frames the Tour as a public health and employment initiative. The Joy Readiness to Work programme uses the race to train young volunteers, while British cycling targets a massive surge in grassroots youth development. The precedent is proven. London's 2007 start triggered a 10% rise in daily cycling, and Yorkshire 2014 set the benchmark, injecting over £128 million into the economy. As Mark Cavendish observed, the scale of this tri-national event will be bigger than you can ever imagine. This tri-national blueprint challenges how professional cycling operates. If Great Britain succeeds, ASO can normalise simultaneous men's and women's launches, transforming them from special occasions into the expected standard. It proves that crossing borders is no longer a logistical barrier, but a commercial asset. This model directly rivals the single-country, single-race focus of the Giro d'Italia and Vuelta a España. By bundling TV rights and sponsorship across both genders, ASO creates a year-round, multi-race packaging system that shifts sponsor value. The question is no longer whether women's cycling deserves parity, but how quickly the global market will demand it. As professional cycling fights for its modern identity, the road through Britain is no longer just a race. It is the blueprint for a borderless, unified future. If this gamble succeeds, the Tour will never be the same. Share your thoughts in the comments below.